out the insides and they'd add a hole to the bottom of the side of it. From there, they'd find a stick from the same tree that's a bit more dried up and hollow, add it to that hole, and that's how they'd make their tobacco pipe. Now, a tobacco pipe like this will be good for about 2 or 4 months, depending on the usage. After that, then throw it and make a new one. Tobacco, wacky tobacco.
No picking up, okay? Yay!
Now, if you guys could look along the greenery and tell me if you spot anything that's a bit unusual here in the Bahamas. It's okay if everything looks normal. What are those things? Yes. So those cacti along the greenery would actually be our organ pipe cactus, also known as our home pipe cactus. Now, if you're ever stuck in the wild and you recognize it, you can use a t-shirt to break off a piece, then carefully take off its pricks. After that, you can either squeeze it in the container or right in your mouth, but they do store a lot of water that you can't drink. Now, if you were to find the organ pipe cactus on somebody's farm, I would not suggest drinking that water because a lot of farmers use fertilizers, so that water would then already be bitter. Now, along the shoreline, you guys can see a rock that's growing out of the water where the greenery sits on top of. It isn't any regular rock, nor are they volcanic. So that right there would actually be our limestone coral. Now, it does take a coral 1 year just to grow an inch, and this specific coral would be the foundation of what the Bahamas stands on today. So yes, we are floating on one giant piece of coral reef. But right now, if you guys look down into the glass, we're going to be on the lookout for some items that are really similar to a flower, maybe just floating towards the glass.
You can see it.
So what I wanted you guys to get a closer look at would be our upside down jellyfish. Now note, these do not sting. They're actually one of the most laziest creatures in the ocean. So wherever the tide carries them, after that, wherever they lay is just where they would lie. Now the slime that they produce, it does contribute to the lagoon, especially in the mornings, but if it's left on your skin for a very long period of time, it can start to leave a little irritation. But normally after holding it, you just rinse your hands off in the salt water and you'll be fine. Now a few things that they have in common with the starfish, turtles normally feed on them, and if a part of their body was broken off, they can regrow that limb. Now, they're also considered bottom feeders, so they aid in keeping our waters a bit more clear. But right here would be their right side up, which would almost look like a flower in the water, or a bit unfamiliar to us. And then right here would be their upside down. Now, the best way I can describe the feel, I would say that it's really similar to holding a piece of jello, or maybe even a bar of soap. Yes. There we go. So after holding it, guys, you can just rinse your hands off on the outer parts of the boat into the water and you'll be fine. Now right now, if you guys look over to my left, we are now passing our shark pond. Normally there's a lot of lemon sharks, nurse sharks, and reef sharks in this area, and some days they do like to follow us throughout the whole tour. Now the nurse sharks are currently in their mating season, so they do get easily agitated. I also stayed up late watching a shark movie last night, so I don't think visiting them would be a good idea. It was Jaws.
Oh.
But right now, if you guys look down into the glass, we're going to be on the lookout for some items that are really similar to a car tire. Really round and dark with a hole in the middle. Now they do come in different sizes, so we may be looking for a training wheel tire or a winter tire. Now some of them, they have a lot of sand on top, so it may be easier to look for. It would also be a powder donut.
Look, it looks like a big jellyfish. It is. Now give it back. Give it back, lady.
Thank you.
We're gonna wash our hands, okay?
What's your hand?
Do you guys see any car tires?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It looks like a
So what we're currently passing over would actually be our sheep wool sponge. Now, a sponge like the ones that we're passing over, or this one right here, can actually filter or hold up to 30 gallons of water a day. That's also how they would eat the water. Now, just like our limestone coral, they also take a year just to grow an inch. Now, we still do sponge here in the Bahamas, but on a much lower scale, seeing that the artificial sponges, they're easy to get, maintain, and they're way cheaper. But we still use these sponges today to wash our cars, dishes, bodies. They're great exfoliants for your skin. And I've also seen a lot of ladies cut pieces off and use it to apply makeup. Now, my favorite way that I've seen the sponges being repurposed, my favorite way that I've seen the sponges being repurposed.
Is a wig? A wig?
I know, I would never. But a lot of artists, they use these sponges to create really unique designs or their painting or creating. Now, there is a lady in the straw market right now who actually bought a car tire size sponge. It costed her $5,000 and almost a month just to clean it. Now, to this day, I still don't know what she needed the sponge that big for. But if you guys were to get a sponge, probably a bit smaller, and you'll feel it was getting a bit too old for you, instead of throwing it out, you can cut it up and put it into your garden. They're also great fertilizers. Now, they do come with a dark coating on top, so normally how you get it to a brown like this is to beat it, wash it, sun dry it, and repeat that process until all the coating is off.
The sponge.
Now, if you guys look along the greenery to my left, you can see some palm trees poking out. So those palms would be our royal palms. Now, if you were to count each ring on that palm tree's trunk, it would represent as a year on that palm tree's life. Now, the palms, they played a really big role back in the day when the first set of people that landed here in the Bahamas were the Arawaks. The Arawaks, they had a nice way of living. They would fish, farm, and trade. And they cooked their favorite dishes like pepper pot, cassava bread, and a rock stone oven. Now, they'd use these palms to build their homes, which would shield them from any unwanted rain, shine, or strong winds. Now, when they cook their favorite dishes here in the Bahamas, we still use some of the rock stone ovens in some parts, and that's where we get the best potato bread or maybe even pizza from. Now, when the Arawaks first landed here, they called the place Guanahani. Columbus found their way of living very fascinating, so he then took them back to Hispaniola, where they were introduced to new diseases, overworked, and later on died out. But we still use some of the Arawaks words today, like hammock and canoe, and they make their canoes from tree trunks, which normally hold about 12 people. Now, to my left, you guys can see a remodel of how their homes looked. It has been stripped of its palms due to some storms that passed by, but we're going to get somebody to repair it really soon. And in the corner, you guys can see an original rock stone oven. Now, in this photo, you guys can see how their homes look with the palms and how they use natural dyes from different fruits and plants to paint their bodies to express their culture.
What's that?
Oh, hold on.
Now, the Bahamas actually comes from a Spanish word called Bechamar or Bahamar. Now, what this word means is shallow waters or clear waters. So the waters here in the Bahamas, they're not actually blue, they're just reflective of what's underneath. So that's why if you guys either look over to my left or straight over to my right, you can see a dark spot of blue in the water where some sponges, coral, or turtle sea grass will be growing. Versus the outer sides of the boat where there's more sand, you get higher hues of aquamarine or almost clear waters. Now, the colors in our flag are aquamarine to represent our waters, gold to represent our sand and sun, and black to represent the strength and unity in the Bahamian people. Our national flower is the yellow elder, and our national fish is the blue marlin. The national bird will be our pink flamingo. Not only are these protected here in the Bahamas, but they're featured on our coat of arms. Now, this one in the corner is our national tree, and it's called the lignum vitae. Now, back in the day, the lignum vitae tree we cut down and used for the making of boats, and the leaves we cut down and used for the making of the drug penicillin. But because it's now a protected tree, we are not allowed to cut it down anymore.
Look at this. This is national symbols. Yay! Yeah. Kind of famous. Or fish.
It's a soul.
Yeah, pass around. Towards Mama.
Now, even though we gave our independence as a country back in 1973, we still recognize the king as our head of state. So first we'll have the king, then we'll have